Are you a business owner stuck in fear, doubt, and worry about what the marketplace will look like in the future? Then this show is for you. Strap on your seatbelt and get ready to disrupt and innovate. Here's your host, Lisa Levy.
Today on Disrupt and Innovate, I'm joined by Steve Johnson. He's a revenue strategist for high-growth B2B CEOs. Steve helps technical founders and leaders in SaaS, tech, and AI take control of their sales with data-driven systems and first principles thinking. From coaching reps on the front lines to shaping broad-level strategy, he's known for giving CEOs the clarity to build predictable pipelines, close better deals, and drive confident, scalable growth. Steve, that is the equation that all business owners and CEOs want to solve. It is a pain point for everybody that I talk to. So from your perspective, why is it so important and why is that such a pain point for all of us?
Great question. And Lisa, thank you for having me and asking me that. Look, there's the human cost and then there's the business cost. Okay. So let's talk about the human cost to the CEO when revenue isn't working. And I'm coming at this from my own personal experience. I had a business that I bootstrapped and I grew from just me to 7 million in revenue, 30 employees. And one of the things that I never figured out along the way was how to grow revenue beyond sort of referrals and word of mouth. And I spent a lot of nights not sleeping, worrying about revenue, and a lot of weekends. And like I talk to CEOs and they don't necessarily realize that it's keeping them awake at night and it's impacting their lives, right? It's so my, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, but also why it's so important is it's really important to get control of, and secure sales, because without it, our businesses just die. They're always at risk. We're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. That's the personal cost from the business's standpoint, right? And I won't talk about sort of investors and shareholders in the bank and whatever. But there's a lot of pain and friction and just unnecessary pain and friction that comes into trying to figure out how to sell, how to hire salespeople, how to hire more salespeople, keep them working, where to find them, and how to keep things rolling and growing. And so my goal, the transformation I hope to take my clients on is how do we go from chaotic and unstructured to predictable revenue that's secure. So yeah. So please go ahead. Yeah.
Predictable and secure. I mean, seriously, that is for everybody listening, right? It's a holy grail and it's hard to get there. I'm not there. I'll own that, right? I don't know if everybody out there listening would be willing to just sort of say that, but I'll go there. I am absolutely not there. So talk to me a little bit about the approach. What is it that you're doing with your clients?
Okay. So what I'm doing with my clients is I'm trying to address a couple of unaddressed mistakes that happen very commonly for all of us. Okay. Present company included. Okay. Both of us here. And one of the key mistakes or one of the key misconceptions is that, and this is logical. Okay. I'm a founder. I'm a CEO. I've gotten some initial sales but I don't know how to sell. So I need to just hire some salespeople, right? And they'll come in and sell. And maybe I hire a VP of sales or a sales leader, and they'll know how to lead the salespeople. And it'll just work, right? Like I hire an accountant to come take care of my books. I hire a CFO, right? I hire customer service, like all these different roles. We're used to it. And sales and sometimes marketing too, and marketing agencies doesn't work that way. Like there's a lot of talent that is out there that can come in and work within a system that's working and they'll execute on it. But there's not a lot of talent that knows how to come in and build the system. And so that's one of the major mistakes. So that's number one. And then, the second mistake is that founders and CEOs feel like, well, I don't know sales and it's this big scary thing. And so I need to rely on somebody else. And that's not true either. If the founder CEO, they're smart enough to figure out the problem for their customers and how to fix it, then they're also smart enough to know how to sell. and how to take care of it. And then the third thing that leads me to the third piece, which is there's a misconception that selling is this collection of sort of skills and techniques to convince or manipulate somebody into doing what you want them to do. Right. And we've all bought a car. And, and when I talk to groups of CEOs, I'll say, okay, how many of you have bought a car from a dealership? And, everybody will put their hand up, and then I'll say, okay, how many of you, if you bought the car because of the salesperson, keep your hand up. Right. And then and then everybody's hand goes down and say, okay, how many of you bought your car in spite of your salesperson? And everybody's hand goes up. Right. Okay. So it's not the salesperson. Where did the decisions get made that caused you to buy that car? Well, it was upstream, where somebody thought about you and what you would want and your needs and your desires, personal, but also in real world. And they made that thing. And then you saw a marketing message and you saw it and you went. And people think of B2B sales. And I would argue, maybe we'll get into it today or at another time, but I would argue that B2B sales is even more emotionally driven, not less than B2C sales in that way. So, yeah.
And it's a really interesting point. And I think we should play with that a little bit because,
Okay.
right, the idea of buying a car, buying a house, right? We think of these larger ticket items in our personal lives
Mhm.
as, things that we actually, ponder over, and we make all these harsh decisions, but we know the science says it's 100% emotionally driven. So talk to me in that connection in B2B sales, how that is still sort of that same model.
Okay.
I
Great.
love it.
Great. So in the way that humans make decisions, right? And again, the science is out there. We make a decision, we like something catches our attention, and then we look for data to justify why we like that thing or why that thing's interesting to us. So if we're buying a house or a car and we screw it up, who knows that we screwed up? Just us. Maybe our spouse. Maybe we'll share it with our friends over a glass of wine, right? Cry into a coffee, something like that. Now, imagine you are an IT buyer, for example, at a Fortune 500 or 1,000 company, or maybe not. Maybe it's just a smaller, $3 to $5 million a year firm, and you're in the position of recommending changing an accounting software package, or maybe even one that's higher visibility, like a service and ticketing package, or even something simple like the phone system. Well, suddenly, if something goes wrong, it's not just you, everybody knows about it. If you buy a phone system and it doesn't work, everybody knows about it. If you're in a call center, whatever. So there are personal and professional reasons that can get in the way, and the personal and professional dynamics that play into a B2B sale. And so one of the big mistakes that companies make, Lisa, when they're selling into a business is they sell to the business. They're not selling to the people in the business. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're selling to, I don't know, maybe this, okay, and you're going to come in and sell a security solution to the CIO. Well, if they make a good decision, nobody knows because nothing happens and they keep their job. If they make a bad decision and they don't bring in the right vendor and it doesn't get taken care of, well, it's not just that they have to, they've burned career capital, right? The consequences for them are not just, oh, I have to go find another job, but maybe this stopped my career progression. Maybe I won't make my mortgage. Maybe I'll have a hard time paying for my kids to go to private school or whatever. Like, there's a whole bunch of dynamics that go on there that have to be addressed in most sales processes. Most marketing doesn't address or try and address those issues that can get in the way and block your ability to sell into that organization. And when I say sell, maybe think about selling as a shorthand for being able to help our clients or a company solve their problems, help them make a better decision to achieve their goals.
Absolutely, right, because what you didn't say in all of that, right, the decision maker, what we're talking to them about, right, is that we're trying to debunk their fear of being wrong. It's really that simple. Nobody wants to look like an idiot.
Right.
And obviously, right, you use the example, some of these decisions can be career killers. And so that makes it, that much harder. And when you're talking in that B2B space and you're working through the people, there's very seldomly a single decision maker. I mean, ultimately there's the one person who signs and says go, but usually you have to navigate your way through a committee as a group of people who have competing priorities. More often than not, they're very seldomly actually aligned. And so in that scenario, right, you're not only talking to one, you're talking to many different fears of being wrong and navigating through that. This is an exercise in understanding and working with people. The solution is the solution, and what we do, we know its value, we know its worth, but we have to position it in a way that speaks to them in a way that they can feel confident that they can present this forward in a way that it will not blow up in their face.
Mhm.
And that's a lot to accomplish. Thank you for sharing the 3 misconceptions, because I think that it's really important that we think through those, because they are the 3 things that make or break a deal. Having and growing that sales team, oh my gosh, that's a hard step for a founder and a business owner to get from, we have a couple of clients. I guess my question on that one, why is it so hard to find the people who know how to build the actual process? A good salesperson does not necessarily build, right? Why
Right.
is that so hard?
Great question. Okay. So based on my experience and what I've observed, the problem is that the people who can build the process are self-selecting themselves out of the sales pool, and they're not accessible to us. Here's what I mean by this. Okay. Um, so let's say you've got a salesperson who can create the process and can read what needs to happen, and they create it and make it happen. Well, those people usually wind up in one of 3 places. One is they're working for a unicorn like Dropbox, or a big company like Salesforce or Oracle or someplace like that. And most of us can't attract those people into our business unless we're going to be a future unicorn, and there's some big upside there, right? So they're not available to us, even if they started, not in one of those places. But the second is that they are able to do it, and they have gone and worked at the unicorn, and now they're on a beach. And unless, again, like they're not available. The third, and this is a fun one, because when I talk to groups of CEOs, I ask them to put their hands up with this, is they work in a sales role and they realize, oh, why am I doing this and working so hard and creating this process for somebody else when I could go do this for myself, right? They're entrepreneurial. And if we break out the Venn diagram of skills, like what makes a good entrepreneur, CEO, and makes a good salesperson, they really overlap quite a bit. The ability to recognize customer problems, the ability to find solutions, to drive a process and get things done, to be conscientious, like all those kinds of things, like they all line up. And so when I'll talk to rooms full of CEOs, we'll say, okay, how many of you were salespeople before, right? And you went and did your own thing. You fall into that third category, and about a third will sheepishly raise their hands, and we'll all have a good laugh about that, right? So that's why it's so hard to find somebody who can come in and fix it. Okay, so where does that leave us? Well, one thing that we can do, and you didn't ask this question, but I'm going to answer it, okay? Like, one thing we can do is we can design a sales process. Actually, let me take a step back. There's some good data that shows that, especially in B2B, more and more of the sales process, like up to 70 or more percentage of the sales process, is now happening before your prospect ever reaches out to your company. So having the right kind of content and marketing messages and things that are useful and create value for prospective clients before they get to you is very valuable. And then having a very structured process that you're training salespeople into who can be fit into the process. Like that's what you do. And then you can hire people in, you simplify it as much as possible, and plug the right people into that, and then manage them for that. The other way you can do it is you find salespeople who are going to be their own CEOs one day. And there's lots of overlooked and underappreciated people in your business, in your area, that understand the problems your clients are trying to solve. And when I did this with a restaurant software company called C2It Software, we hired restaurant managers and directors of operations who were entrepreneurial, who had achieved those roles maybe early in their career. Some didn't. Some had formal education, some didn't. Didn't matter. They knew the problems that the people that we were trying to sell into could solve. And so they could just come out and talk about the problems with people. And the sales would happen just because we were helping customers solve problems in the sales process.
So what I love about that solution, right,
Mhm.
is again what you're not saying, right? This is relationship building. This is talking to people, right? Those individuals who are feeling overlooked in those roles and we're taking them and, helping them morph into a slightly different role. They probably already have a Rolodex of people in the environment that they can actually start to just have normal conversations with, that it's not the skeezy used car sales experience, right? This is, we truly understand you. I know, like, and trust you. I know what you're doing. I understand the problems you have. And hey, by the way, here's a potential solution. And it is a much more authentic human interaction.
Absolutely. It's more authentic. It's more human. Also, the world continues to get noisier and noisier. With AI, it's really simple to spin out a whole bunch of kind of like when email. Remember when email first came around and it became easy to just flood people with communications? You didn't have to spend money to send somebody a letter. Showing my age here, but that's okay. But AI is doing that for content. So there's a lot of information, but there's not a lot of knowledge that can be applied, and that's relatively rare. So being able to show up and really do three things, and I wish I had thought of this, but I got this from Satya Nadella at Microsoft. Okay, and he said it in a throwaway comment. It was a softball question in one of his interviews where somebody asked him, "Hey, what do you look for when you're hiring people?" And the answer I'm going to give you, it doesn't just apply to hiring, it applies to business. This is how you manage businesses. This is how you do sales and help people solve their problems. He said three things. One, do they bring clarity? Okay. And when I think about that in terms of sales, like, okay, so can I help you clarify what your problem really is? And I, as the vendor, should know better than you what your problems are and how to solve them. That's why people hire us, right? Okay. Number two is do they bring energy? And when I think about that in the sales context, that means what are the consequences? What are the consequences of doing nothing or doing what we're doing now versus what's the potential upside of what we're going to do? And also, how do we de-risk that so that we're safe to get there? And then the third thing is simply to unconstrain the constraints. Where's the constraint? And that's a lot of what this is about, is helping people are stuck. That's a constraint. And how do you get them unstuck? Right. So if you just focus on those three things, it'll take you most of the way there. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's shift directions just a little bit. And thank you for sharing about what you're doing and how you approach it and what that means to businesses. And I might come back to a couple of questions on that, close it out. But as a business owner, right, let's put you in that hat for a second. And what's a bold decision that you made along the way that changed your path?
I think the decision I made to to go into business for myself with my IT company, actually, as I think about that, that was the biggest decision that has put me where I am today. And it's taken me it's been an unusual path. Anyway, and look, it was a bold decision. I graduated from college. With a degree in economics. I had a few small kids and not a lot of prospects with an econ degree, with an undergrad econ degree. And I realized that for me to learn the things I wanted to learn and work with the people I wanted. Oh, and also I just wasn't a good fit for the corporate environment. I knew that. I took a couple runs at that too. And forced me to develop my own point of view, figure things out from the ground up. And, it was bold. Ultimately, it was also the safest decision to make. It wasn't rational at the time, but looking back on it, rational now. And because, like there's many lessons that came out of it, but I think the biggest one is that I learned is that having firsthand experience of a thing, it leads to having very specific knowledge about the thing. And then lets me or whomever has it really be able to operate with it and act and implement it. I
That's
appreciate the
fantastic.
question, by the way. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's important for our audience to kind of get the perspective of, you've done this for yourself. You have been on an entrepreneurial journey. You have built and led multiple businesses, and it's important for people who are on that path, and it's not an easy path, and it takes time and it takes energy and intestinal fortitude and lots of other things to stay the course for your career. Thank you for sharing that. If people are interested in what we've been talking about today, Steve, and they want to learn more, how do they find out more?
The easiest way, go to my website, scalingsales.com, and you can engage with me there. That'll take you to my LinkedIn profile, as well as you can sign up for my newsletter there as well.
Fantastic. And so our ability to understand that building a sales team is a lot of more art than it actually is science, and getting to the place where we can find somebody who can actually build that process for us well is very hard, because those people are hard to come by. And the reality is, and I know I'm guilty of this, I don't sell, I don't know sales. That statement is something we need to strike out of our vocabulary, because as leaders, we are experts in what we're doing, and we absolutely know how to position and sell what we're doing, or we wouldn't have something to position and sell. That this is a skill, that sales is a skill set to manipulate an outcome, is outmoded and used effectively in high pressure sales by people like used car salesmen, salespeople. But in this services place, in a B2B environment, there is no room for that behavior. We need to be building relationships, because the sales decisions are emotionally driven. You all know this because you make those decisions every day. And why would you try to sell in a way that you are unwilling to be sold to? Steve, thank you for joining us. Audience, you know my rules. Don't get left behind. Join me next time.
That's it for today's episode of Disrupt and Innovate. Head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show.